Hi guys, it is Olivia Ponton and welcome to Booked and Busy. So this series is specifically for the girlies who love to read. I probably started reading about 4 years ago when I moved to New York City. Reading is kind of my escape away from the world. I like to specifically read fantasy books. So today, the first book of Booked and Busy is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. For people who know me, hi and welcome back. Thank you for coming and watching this. For people who do not know me, my name is Olivia Ponton and I live in New York City. Little backstory on me. Born and raised Florida, moved to LA for a year. My agents told me if I ever wanted to work for Victoria's Secret, I couldn't do it in Los Angeles. So I moved to New York 2 weeks later. And then it was my first job when I moved here. So here I am 4 years later, still working for them. And kind of through this endeavor, living in New York, we live crazy, crazy lives. So reading has just kind of taught me to slow down. And then I didn't really know book talk was a thing until my agents were like, why don't you post about this? So hello, book talk, if we're on that side. For Booked and Busy, I really wanted to create a space where it's kind of deep diving on the books. I'm not quizzing you. This is not like a book club where I'm like holding you accountable or I pretend that I even have an English degree because I don't. I didn't go to college, transparently. I'm just someone who likes to read and is very passionate about it. So kind of want to share that with you guys. On each episode, we are going to choose one book to kind of weirdly understand because these books live rent-free in my brain. Pretty much every book I read alters my brain chemistry in some capacity. Some books I think about for weeks, days, some have almost been months. And then we all know the book rut that we get into, the book slum, where you just like can't really find something to like spark your interest and your inspiration. So I want this podcast to kind of introduce new books to people and kind of fill that void in a little. So also with each episode, I would love to do a beverage of the day. If you know me, I'm obsessed with caffeine a little too much. So today we have a golden turmeric latte. I know you can't really see, but I'm wearing a full golden outfit. Whoa. And that is because if you've read the book, you know about Miss Anadara, my queen, my princess. She is the juvenile dragon who's golden. So I wanted to embody her today because she's my favorite character in the entire book, even though she doesn't really talk ever. Anyways, next we're going through all the character names and I'm gonna give you a little bit of a cheat sheet because things get complicated with all the words. The first main character is Violet Sorrengail. I never know how to pronounce their names, so please don't judge. So the entire book is from her perspective. Okay, girl queen. I love that. We have Violet Sorrengail. She's the mother of Violet. We have Mira Sorrengail, who is the sister. And then we have Brennan Sorrengail, who's the brother. Next, we have my favorite, which is Xaden Ryerson. Book talk knows. That's all I gotta say. He is Violet's, at the beginning, enemy. But if you read the book, you kind of know where that ends up. He is the second main character of the book and Violet's love interest. I feel like I can say that now before I get too deep into it. Next, we have Rhiannon, who is one of Violet's friends that she makes on the parpets. Jack Barlow. We don't like Jack Barlow, basically. And then there's Liam. Love Liam. Dane Atos. I'm not going to talk too much about him because, to be so honest, I'm not a fan. We have Miss Queen Anadara, who I'm proudly representing today. We have Taryn, who is the ancient dragon that Violet is bonded to. And then we have Sagail. Please insert how to spell that because what the heck? Who is Xaden's dragon, who he's bonded to. Next, we're going to have a little bit of a cheat sheet because we need it all. We have the Kingdom of Navarre, which is the kingdom that they all exist in. We have Basgiath, which is the college that they all attend to when they are 20. And the college has 4 quadrants. We have the scribes, riders, infantry, and the healers. I feel like the 2 most important are the scribes and the riders. The riders quadrants are divided up into 4 wings, and each 4 wings have 3 sections underneath them. It's a lot. It's confusing. It's a little irrelevant, but just for information. And then the scribes are responsible for all of like the paperwork. They are the most knowledgeable people in Navarre. They're responsible for maintaining the documents, keeping all the records straight, and that is actually what Violet grew up doing because her father was a scribe. Next, we have conscription day, which is once they turn 20 years old that they all say which section they're going to go to. I think of it like Divergent, honestly, where they go and they cut their hand and they're like, okay, I'm going to go into abnegation or dauntless, etc. Next, we have the parpets, which is going to be one of the first things that I talk about. The parpet is basically this bridge that goes across from the mainland to the Riders' Quadrant. It's very small and you have to walk across it very deathly not fun. Next, we have cadets, which is basically first year people who are going into the Riders Quadrant. We have the Gauntlet, the Threshing, and the Warfare course. The Gauntlet is just like a deathly obstacle course. That sounds terrible. The Threshing is basically where you are bonded to a dragon, and it is very common for dragons to kill you or eat you. Next, we have the Warfare course, which I feel like that pretty much explains itself. The next word is Signet, which is basically the magical power that you get from your dragon once you are bonded with them. This is a very, very important theme throughout the entire book. Next, we have the rebels, who are called the Marked because they have tattoos on them to show that they are part of the rebellion, or their parents were. Next, we have the Wyverns. They're kind of similar to dragons, and they're very deadly. They're just like magically engineered monsters. And then we have the Venin, who are very not natural. They basically siphon magic from the earth, so it just makes them out of control with the amount of magic that they're able to siphon. And they're very deadly. And if you get attacked by them, they are very poisonous and you die. So now we're going into the 3 main topics of the book. I took a really long time to think about the topics because I wanted to make sure I was capturing Violet in the correct light from my perspective, not just from what's out on the internet. The first one that really taught a lot about myself learning through her was power and identity. So Violet completely redefines what the word strength is, in my opinion, because in the Riders Quadrant, they define strength as physical. You know, if they can get through fights, they can, physically ride on the dragons, where Violet kind of defines strength as intellectual, perseverance, and inner discovery. In the book, they do not stop talking about how fragile Violet's body is, to the point where I'm like, this is a little weird. I'm not sure if this is a conspiracy theory, but it is thought that she has a chronic illness that makes her bones super fragile and brittle. In the book, they often describe her as frail, brittle, and gentle. I don't know if I'd like to be called brittle, but that's just me. A big part of the book is her relationship within her mother. Her mom is the one who forces her into the Riders Quadrant when she knows her daughter is probably not going to survive. And that is some real foreshadowing. Even with all the cards against her, she's an absolute genius from studying so much so early on from the scribes. Her father was a scribe. She thought she was going to go into the scribes quadrant, but then last minute when he passed away, she was then forced into the Riders Quadrant. She never falls out of line. She kind of just adjusts into this new world that she's thrown into. Like, for example, when she's on the parpet and she meets Rhiannon, who, they're both equally freaking out. Violet's sister, Mira, gave her shoes for the parpet that had special spikes so they could really grip into the ground. And I just thought it was incredible that Violet gave one of her shoes to Rhiannon and was like, hey, sister, we're in this together. And then they both made it. And then that was how she made her first friend. I thought it was very important that right in the beginning, you had to establish your friend group almost immediately to know who had your back and who did not have your back. So I loved Rhiannon and Violet's friendship. Another example of Violet using her power is when she started mini poisoning people the night before their physical fights, because Violet was very fragile and brittle. When they had to do these in-person fights, she was losing every single one. But she's a genius and whipped up a little concoction, not to the point where anyone would really realize, but we're going to introduce Xaden in very quickly, and Xaden started realizing, but he didn't get her in trouble. He just kind of respected her a little bit more. Another example of just pure power within Violet is the fact that she was able to bond with not 1, but 2 dragons. So there's only 100 dragons that you can bond with. There's 160 cadets that make it to the Threshing. That means 60 people are no longer going to be dragon riders. And we're not going to explain what goes on after that. I honestly loved that the author spoke so frequently that dragons didn't bond with the weak and unworthy. So I just thought it was 10 times more iconic that Violet bonded with 2. But other people in the book did not like that she bonded with 2. So therefore, a lot of them got together after the Threshing and tried to kill Violet. And that's when we found out Anadara's signet, which is freezing time. During this time that is frozen, Xaden comes and rescues her and, la-di-da-di-da, they start falling in love, but, And I believe that happened in chapter 19, which in retrospect, that's a good hefty bit into the book. From starting the book to chapter 19, Xaden and Violet hated each other. It's very much like an enemies to lover trope. They were enemies, family generation did not like each other. So because bonding with a dragon is so competitive, I think it just makes her that much more confident within herself that she's able to bond with 2 dragons. And I think that's the first kind of bit of where we start to see Violet embody herself and feel confident, because honestly, a good bit of the book is self-deprecation. She's just constantly in this state of mind where she's like, I'm gonna die. There's no way I'm not dying tonight. It's not only her that believes that, it's kind of everyone around her. Xaden has no faith in her. And the mother, oh my God, she has even less faith in her than Xaden does. So a large part of the book, you're just kind of expecting her to die at some point, but she always just hangs on a little bit. It's like thread by thread. And you're just like, wow, she really got out of that? Oh, okay. The second topic is loyalty within war. There's not only an external war that's going on, but an internal war within herself, within her friends, within her family, also within the kingdom of Navarre. Her loyalty at the beginning of the book lies within the military that raised her, her family, because her mother is actually a general and one of the most feared and powerful people within the government. But the story kind of develops because we figure out like the marked, aka the villains, aren't really what we thought. They're also referred to as the rebels and the traitors. Violet was always taught that the rebellion happened ages ago and that the traitors, quote unquote, got what they deserved, which was Xaden's father passing away. But as Violet kind of digs a little bit deeper into the meaning behind the rebellion and like the wards that are holding in the kingdom of Navarre, she finds out a good bit of research. She kind of slowly starts figuring out everything that she had been taught was a total lie. She ends up finding out that the traitors were trying to uncover something that the government was trying to suppress. AKA, it wasn't treason. It was their attempt to unleash what was actually happening beyond Basgiath. And I think at the core, Violet just wanted to help bring awareness to what was going on because so many innocent people were in danger. So she gets into this little bit of a pickle where she's very confused of what side she's going to stay on. I mean, I cannot personally imagine my mother using me as a pawn, lying to me, manipulating me, brainwashing me, and then still expecting for me to stay on her side. And she was also brainwashed into thinking that these marked people were these high and mighty bad guys who were actually just fighting for the same things that Violet was fighting for. A perfect example of this is Violet's mom sending them to this hypothetical warfare course. When they get there, they end up being ambushed by these Vernon, who are super deadly. And what she thinks is this test for them to join the Riders' Quadrant ends up becoming a very real battle. Initially, Violet was another pawn in this game of war where they were all basically sent to not make it back. Imagine your mother doing that. That's crazy. So next we have trust and romance, which for me is my favorite topic to talk about. So we're going to talk about Xaden and Violet specifically. Their storyline is like the whole time. They were sought after to hate each other because of their parents, because of the rebellion. You know, Xaden's dad was the leader of the Marked, and Violet's mother is the head of the military. So Violet's mom initially killed Xaden's father, so they just automatically hated each other. So this is actually the first enemies to lover book that I actually enjoyed a lot. So where the slow burn kind of starts happening, which I touched on a little bit earlier, is when Xaden finds out that Violet has been mini poisoning people for her physical fights the next day. And I touched briefly that Xaden gained a respect for her when he found out what she was doing, but I think he could have immediately gone and punished her for doing this and not actually loyally fighting them. I think he starts gaining the soft spot for her, and that is like really when we first see the turning point of like, oh, maybe they don't hate each other as much as we thought they did. So while you're reading the book, you really do not think Violet is going to get through the threshing, which is when you're bonding to a dragon. She's out there in the fields, no one's picking her. I mean, inevitably, a bunch of the cadets are picking on a juvenile dragon named Miss Anadara, who's my queen. And Anadara ends up eventually bonding to Violet, and she also ends up bonding to Tarrant. Violet starts realizing that Xaden probably isn't as bad as she thinks he is, because I think she realizes that he's bearing a lot of pain from protecting so many people around him. AKA, he starts secretly helping out the people from the Venin from neighboring kingdoms. Violet is undergoing a ton of different push and pulls of like what a hero is versus what a villain is, because in her brain she's brainwashed from her mother, but then she meets this amazing guy Xaden who's actually trying to help people, and in her brain she's like, do I trust him, do I not trust him, like what's going on? And then we have the scene where Xaden and Violet first kiss. If you remember from the book, lightning starts going crazy, like everywhere, and it's not raining, it's like the middle of the night, it's a perfect night, and that's when we figure out Violet's signet from Tarn, which is the power of lightning. She just doesn't really know how to control it. But in that moment, she was feeling a lot of emotions. It was crazy scene, and it's just going off everywhere. So that's when they officially went from enemies to lovers. So this whole book is pretty much about trust and who to trust when nothing is certain. One thing that is certain is that Xaden has never lied to Violet, not once. Even when he doesn't want to tell her things, he does. On the contrary, her mother has lied about every single thing that she knows. And I think one of the turning points is when Violet realizes that her mother was keeping such important information away from a large amount of people. I feel like that was kind of the turning point where Violet was like, I can't trust you anymore. A lot of Xaden and Violet's relationship is like life and death situations. They're never just like calm and at peace and in love. It's constant like what's going on? What's going on? So this information that the mother is keeping away from these people, it's 100% life and death information. Even going through the threshing, she's still trying to figure out who her friends are, who her enemies are. Like, we love Liam, we love Rhiannon, we don't like Jack over here. We hate Jack. Even from when he pushed someone off the parapet, that was just like immediately, you're done. Violet spends a large part of the book trying to hate Xaden. Like, I think she really does, but there's always this like constant pull to them. And when Violet bonds to Taryn is mated to Sorrengail, and Sorrengail is Xaden's dragon. I know it's a little confusing, but it all works. Their whole relationship is built on trust because Xaden has never once lied to her. And in a world where she's constantly lied to from everyone, that was something that was very valuable to her. And like I was saying earlier, their relationship wasn't really about like, oh, I'm falling in love with this guy. Like, I love him so much. It's so amazing. It was more so just like, nothing was certain. I trust this guy with my life. And that is how they fell in love. It was definitely about the bond of trust that they developed over time. So trust is what defines Violet, and it's not within her relationship, it's within herself and her confidence. At the beginning of the book, I was touching on how she was super insecure and how it was like an ongoing theme that she did not believe in herself. And then towards the end of the book, it's like we saw a whole new person. She was confident within her decisions, which I feel like the beginning, we were not seeing that. She learns and gains a lot of her confidence through her actions and her opinions that she starts to kind of curate, specifically with learning all the information about her mother, especially at the end of the book where they're running away from the venom and they end up in this like magical third world that they didn't even know existed. Well, that is a wrap on my first episode of Booked and Busy, Fourth Wing. The first few episodes, I kind of want to test out a few different outlines to see which ones you guys wanted to hear. So thank you for deep diving this book with me. I hope I could spread some of my love for books with you. Bye guys, love you.